One of the most exciting things about technology or careers in technology and why I got started talking in this topic is because I've seen the transformation that it has in people's lives, in companies, in economies, and everywhere else. And today's guest is a story of that transformation. Kadisi started from very humble beginnings, but he's been able to build a really amazing career doing this stuff. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, Kadisi.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's it's all been blessings and good people along the way. Mhm.
Great. And of course, I probably did a bit of injustice because I didn't tell you that Kadisi is a solutions architect at one of the leading cloud technology companies in the world. And what I really want to get into the heart of today is, solution architect, as we heard in like maybe 2 episodes ago, is essentially like a jackknife for many different things. But we want to get into the heart of it today to figure out what does it really take for you to go 0 to 1 in that career. And I'm hoping that that's what you can help us break down today.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. As you might probably have heard from the other guests, being a
Mhm.
solutions architect, you're literally um a master in the tech space in general. You're supposed to understand various technologies in different spaces, and it really takes the kind of curiosity of trying to figure out what the whole thing looks like for you to be able to try start putting pieces together in certain sectors, right? Now, I'll kind of elaborate on that, right? I personally, my current role, I'm a solutions architect for AWS. What I do is I work in the retail space. So I have various customers, and these customers have various issues that they have to specific to their business problems. Um, Being able to figure out, first of all, how do I frame this problem into chunks to be able to dissect like the source issues, the variables that's going to be at play for us to tweak to make it work, right? That could be application stack, that could be the devices themselves, that could be like how we go about like using the frameworks. It can be like just even the mode using containerization versus using like serverless environment using like lambdas or something like that, right? So it's all these different tools, but you have to have that frame and curiosity of what does this all mean, like how does this all fit together, so for me, I've always had that curiosity since I was very young. My father had a computer shop, and which allowed me to have a little bit of like exposure, a lot of exposure actually, to computers at an early age. And the way that I got into it was by games. I wanted to basically make my computer be able to play my video games. And it didn't work. And so I had to basically destroy my father's computer in the process of trying to upgrade it for it to basically like, for me to learn. Right. And so that curiosity, if you have that, that's what will help you really grow in this space. Mhm.
One of the things that's so fascinating that it almost seems like a theme that I've heard all the guests say is like just break computers. Like if you guys want to get into tech, break computers when you're young. Like it almost works, almost always. I promise. But I know you give some example of the work that you do, but I even want to like bring it back down a little bit more to a relatable example that most people feel. So you say you work with retailers. What does that
Mhm.
look like in terms of like something that I, the consumer, would understand in terms of the problem you solve?
Oh, say for instance, you probably I'll use Amazon because that's something that everybody knows, and I can't that way I don't reveal anything about my customers. Right? So when you go and log into Amazon and you're looking for an item, for instance, right? You may see a variety of different things come up when you do the search, and they may have relevance that's a bit more to your preferences than to someone else's preferences, right? So, in order for that to be a strong predictive mechanism, there has to be an entire data pipeline in play that allows for us to understand you, the customer. And so what I do in one situation, let's say we want to do personalization when it comes to recommendations for customers. When you go and you see that recommended for you tab that comes up and shows you things that are close to what you've looked at in the past. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So having the customer have those relevant things, how the technology in the back end works, right? But also pairing that with the need for making more sales for the customer by allowing the customer to see what they're looking for, not things that are not relevant to them. So they're
Mm.
not wasting time clicking away. They're able to like quickly get from point A to point B, which is a win for the my customer, which is the person who's doing the retailer. Yeah, you know.
You know what's so interesting is that I can relate a lot to what you're saying because I spent majority of my career in e-commerce, so I could that makes sense to me, right? And
Hmm.
and I think that's something. It's a form of ease and convenience that the end user or the final customer enjoys, but doesn't really maybe not appreciate, right? Like because you're looking for it, it's there, you think it's just naturally supposed to be, but it's not naturally occurring, right? Because, for example, even to talk about like an iPhone charger, something as simple as that, right? You know, if I'm a budget shopper, I don't want to see $100 charger in my recommendation, right? And I
Yeah.
think the customer expects that the kind of product I'm looking for. Is it mid-range? Is it a super luxury? Or is it like super budget item? And I think being able to match, even when I go to that page, right? But it's not quite what I'm looking for. Those extra recommendations below, right? That says, well, you're
Yeah.
looking at this, but do you like these other ones? And ultimately, it's like, it looks simple, which because that's what technology is supposed to do. It's supposed to make your life easy. But there's a lot of
Exactly.
work behind the scenes that people like Kadisi do that makes that easy part easy.
Mhm. That is very true. Is very true. Yes, like and that understanding of the business problem, that business problem understanding, and being able to transfer to technology, that is something that a lot of people who are really afraid of technology in general, and they feel like, oh my gosh, there's all this coding, all these different things. That skill is super important in business. And at the same time, one of the beautiful things about the space is you get to see how little things, little systems like that being put into place for the customer, for the business, really amplifies the business's sales.
Mm.
So yeah.
Something that you said that's so powerful that almost I want to segue into is one of the biggest limitations that stops so many people from learning, getting into tech or starting a career in tech is that, and I don't want to mix it up. Like it's very intimidating, right? Like to go
Mhm.
to a space that you've not been in. So, for example, like you drive for Uber Eats or you work at McDonald's or you work in the warehouse. Like I could see how it's intimidating for people not to want to make that crossover. But how do you reframe it? Because I really like the example that you use and talk someone through who's going through that fair, how to really think about how the tech industry works and how they can still find their place in there, even if coding is not their thing.
That is very true. Um, Well, luckily for you, AI is coming, so more and more coding will not be such a big barrier. But in essence, you just have to think about it like this. Like there's only a few businesses that everybody needs, right? And in every vertical, every single walk of life, somebody is going to be able to use technology in a way that benefits their business, their livelihood, and all that. And as you, as a person who is doing work for and making sure that you're marketing yourself in the environment, you want to get into a market where you know that the consistency of the need will exist, and it also gives you really good autonomy. And all that aside, there is so many different ways for you to take advantage of the technological space from if you decide that, hey, I have a really good idea, but I want to be able, and I'm really good at organizing, and I'm really good at like helping people, like, stay on task. Let me get a team together and let me go and create a product, right? What if you have the skill and you're like, oh my goodness, when I see how this application works and I see how all of these buttons work on this desktop or anything, I see how they could become better. I actually have a passion for that, and I like the idea of design. There's space for that for you. But at the end of the day, the way that the tech space is, we are looking for ways of automating to abstract some of these things out of way, right? Like
Mhm,
we're trying to look for ways of speeding those things up. So it becomes more imperative that you understand where the business ideas are, like I said, and
mm,
then also have a general understanding of the technology as far as basically what the purposes of the things are, right?
mm,
Then you can then supplement that knowledge with like the use of AI, the use of other things like that, because you know the construct, but you
mm,
can't immediate you must have a desire to
mm,
understand the technology. You must have that desire. That is something that I
mm,
feel that if you're going into this space and you're like, I just want to go and make money, you're not
mm,
going to be successful. You must
mm.
have that desire, right? Mhm.
And I think the thing that you say to kind of like say it a different way, or at least how it resonated with me is like if you take music for example, right? Like, you know, nobody looks at the music industry, or maybe most people will look at the music industry and think, I gotta be 50 Cent or I gotta be Ja Rule, right? But understand like there's Dr. Dre, right? There's Damon Dash. There's a lot of people in that space that makes it work. But to your point,
Mhm.
like you first of all have to love the music, right?
Mhm.
Whatever space you want to play in and in that industry, if you don't love the music, you're not gonna be able to make it work, right? Like so
Mhm.
you gonna even if like you're AR or an artist agent or something else like that, you're not gonna be able to spot those opportunities if you're like, you know what? I don't care about the music. Take the music away from me. I just care about the money. But you
Mhm.
gotta bring that passion. But it doesn't mean that you have to make the music. So you don't have to write the software.
Yes,
You don't have to architect the
exactly.
software. But do you like what it does? Do you like how it changes the world? And I feel like we live in that world where it's inevitable to not interact or engage with technology. So you don't even have a choice not to like technology. Like 20 years ago, you
Mhm.
could do that. Like today, you want to open a bank account, you do it on your phone. You want to
Mhm.
like every single thing you want to do. Most
Mhm.
people file their taxes on their phones, right? So it's like
Yeah.
technology has already even become a part of our lives that you can't stop. Like there's no way to not do it.
Yes, yes, for sure. Well, and I have to say, I mean, we're coming back to what you were saying earlier about what it means to have to like start from scratch.
Mm,
I'll give you a little bit of background on my story.
mm,
In 2019, I started working at Amazon at a fulfillment center,
mm,
as a temp worker, right?
mm,
In that space, wanted to get into technical space, but I also knew that like this would be my fastest door to break into this company and start working
mm,
internally, right?
mm,
And so once I was became like a full-time employee, I
mm,
actively started looking for learning opportunities within the company to be able
mm,
to grow. Right.
mm,
I started looking at they had reskill opportunities, they had classes and free courses as well.
mm,
Took all those opportunities because the main crux of the matter is I was very interested in the technology,
mm,
right? So it's something if you are interested in this technology and you do want to, you do enjoy the idea of what it would mean for the future, to have this more proliferated for everybody, really,
mm,
um, and you want to understand how you can be a part of that, then that is the kind of drive you need to be
mm.
successful.
You touch on a few things that I really like, and I was actually putting up one of the things, but I'm gonna go to the first one. So this is the thing that most people miss out on, right? Many of my guests have said it, so I'm gonna reiterate and talk about it again. One of the underrated ways to get into a tech company is to look for roles in that company that may not be in corporate, right? Like I've heard people who started as a store associate at Home Depot ended up becoming a software engineer there. Retail associates at Apple who ended up becoming, designers there. And you who started out, in the warehouse and now you work on the technology side. Because think about it this way. One of the things that every company is trying to do is try to hire the right worker. And you can spring your resumes, but the truth is they don't know you. Nobody knows you.
Mhm.
But if you're already in the system, of course, it doesn't mean that you're a less risky hire. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that. but at least we've observed you within this environment, and you already have something that qualifies you a bit more. And if
Mm-hmm.
you think about the job search process, that's literally what everybody's doing. So if they see like
Mm-hmm.
how many people have, degrees, or how many people have MBAs, who has this certification, like all of those things are just qualifiers, right? It does None of that says you can do the job. None of it says that. But it's
Yeah.
like if you have enough of these things that we're looking for, then we can there's even no correlation, right? But at least we can assume that to a large
Mm-hmm.
extent this person can do the job. So again, if you're slipping on it, don't anymore. Figure out a way. Sometimes if it's not happening through those applications, especially if you're breaking in. Of course, I understand like if you already have many years of product management, you may not want to go do that. But for people breaking in, that is a valid route. But I did want to say this quickly also. AWS specifically is offering a lot of different free certifications up to November 30th. I don't know if that's something that you know about and are able to speak to, but I found this opportunity online and I think it's completely crazy because it's like so many of these certs cost anywhere from between $150 to like 500 and even more. The fact that this is free is wild to me, and like people need to take advantage of this kind of opportunities.
Yes, for sure. I would have to say, me personally, I know that the job search marketplace, how that place can be. You're looking for like people to reach out to you. You're looking for people to talk, come and look for you. There are some search that you put on your resume that you start having constantly more and more people looking for you. And the AWS certs, when it comes to the solutions architect, the DevOps associate, and then the solutions architect professional and DevOps professional, getting those will give you a very strong foundation AWS knowledge. And then you can make it a bit spicier by adding like, a specialty in AI/ML and make you more relevant for what is happening in this space as well. So
Mm.
yeah.
That is, hey guys, free game. You know that's what this is about.
Mhm.
Free game. And like this opportunity is too good to pass up. And it's super easy too. Like you don't even
Mhm.
have to jump through hoops, right? Go
Mhm.
to awseducate.com. That's where you join. And then you have to learn on Skill Builder. And this is what I like because we've run free online programs before. Like we're gonna get to your
Mhm.
program where you also help people. The challenge
Yeah.
is like the opportunities are out there, but you a lot of times people are not willing to do the work. So they actually did it
Mhm.
in a way that you learn the skills, you take the practice test. If you get 70% and up, they give you the free exam voucher for you to take the exam and pass it. You don't have to put in your credit card. You don't have to do anything. Go
Mhm.
learn, go take the test, you pass it, you get a free certification. Essentially, like it can't be any easier than that.
And it's so important nowadays to understand how to use the cloud. More and more businesses are, if you don't understand how to like now leverage the cloud to make it so that your tech stack is now cheaper, easier to manage, and then you can now work towards getting at government contracts because you now have the like compliances.
Mm,
There's a whole bunch of opportunities that you unlock when you start to understand the technology. And that's what my business is trying to really look to help with smaller and medium businesses who don't
mm,
even understand what's happening in the IT space. Until I
mm.
got into this space, I didn't know what was happening, and I feel like I have to be like the John the Baptist, just
And spread the
spreading.
gospel.
Spreading the gospel, like literally, like you can sit at home, hire people abroad, and at very, very economic rates, and at the same time build products for this market and compete faster nowadays with the use of AI, with the use of basically the networks we have at play now with Starlink and all these different networks we have enabling for all of us to be able to communicate worldwide. It just gives us a new access so the small business can start challenging big businesses that have established applications over time. But that's just a neither there. This is a distraction.
No, 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 no. And that's a great point that I actually like because we're living through like one of the most brutal tech job markets that we've ever seen, right?
Mhm.
And I think that one of the things that most people miss in that space or don't really pay attention to is, yes, like I wouldn't even particularly advise anyone to go into tech straight away trying to be a business person, right? It takes a special kind of person to build a business with something you're just learning. But
Hmm.
with that said, don't miss out on that opportunity potentially to break in that way. Like my very first job in tech was as an entrepreneur, building out an e-commerce solution and selling stuff. Like that's how I got into tech, right? And because of that, like I became a product manager, switched into that because it's funny. Product manager is one of those roles where you can't just take a certification and become a product manager. That's not how any of that works. You become a
Hmm.
product manager by building, by understanding difficulties, by going through challenges and coming out on the end. So that was why it was so natural a transition for me to do. So
Hmm.
I want people not to miss out on what you're saying because I think it's huge, right? We're living in an era where it's never been easier, cheaper, faster to build technology. Like I remember, like we came in the era of shared hosting. Thank God, like that's when I built my first website. But before, for you to build technology, you literally have to have a physical server that's running
Yes.
24/7. You couldn't do it without power.
Right
And
on.
I remember like they would put, coming from Nigeria where like you don't have constant electricity, like they have to put like multiple UPSs. I don't know if people remember what that is, right? And that is so interesting. So don't miss out on that opportunity. We do have someone in the comments asking about Java Guru series or Java Guru series. I don't know what that means. Can
What
you
about the Java
share?
Guru?
Can you share exactly what you're asking about? But while we wait for that response,
Mhm.
um, in terms of breaking in or getting that first opportunity or learning, what
Mhm.
should somebody be doing in 2025? Of course, beyond great opportunities to earn free certifications like this, to
Mhm.
really get their foot through the door when it comes to the tech industry.
Well, there are several different ways that I would advise as far as learning is concerned. Um, if you're going to, if you want to, like, okay, I'll break it into two different ways. What the market demands
Mm,
based on where the technology and people are going,
mm,
right?
mm,
And then at the same time, what I would do to be able to fit into what that market demands,
mm,
right? So the first thing is there's a divide between those who are kind of stuck in legacy application stylings. These are people who have like servers or don't even have that whole environment happening at all. And
mm,
they're just trying to get to the point where they can start using new technology, right?
mm,
And then there are people who are already using technology right now,
mm,
and they're looking for ways of leveraging the new technology to face the new market of AI.
mm,
Both groups of people have a dilemma. The movement of sensitive information from one methodology of doing something to another. For instance,
mm,
customer data, all these different things, one side to the other. People who have applications that are being put into using to basically create RAG models, integrations into AI, need data cleaned.
mm,
So if I was a person that wanted to understand and study towards a particular role that would best fit into what I feel the new economy shall be, it will be to look for ways of understanding data. That means your Excel, your SQL, for general tabular data understanding. You go into your Python for understanding how to do data transformations and then understanding how to do machine learning in general. And then after that, you would be very, very, very useful for entering into a place where there's a lot of need, right? Now, oop, I just saw a little red thing pop up. But then the way that you would want to think about studying for this space is
mm,
that you would want to understand not how you to do a particular job very well. You want to understand how that job fits in with the entire product life cycle and process within the company. A
mm,
person who comes in and they starts to talk about, oh, I understand how to use Java and this and blah 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 blah, but don't doesn't understand how their what they created has a business impact. It's a
mm,
big difference. So as you're going and study the skill sets that is more in high demand, which is understanding data, understanding how to transform data, how to integrate it into AI, all these different things, you
mm,
should understand what the business problem that solves and how that fits in with the whole developing the product and how that fits in with the money. Because if
mm,
you are the closer you are to understanding how the money is made from
mm.
your work, the better you are at making the thing that needs to happen to make the money. You know what I mean? So
I was gonna say, like, it's so funny that that's one of the things that I heard a lot. When I joined my new job is just like sharing that how we make money is important, and because what it drives is like it drives a certain focus, right? Like you can prioritize because ultimately, like when I look at roles like product or solution architecture, like there's multiple ways to get to the answer, right? But you have to kind of like have the right north star, right? Like you have to be moving in the right direction, and for multiple things, a lot of that will lead to like customers and like satisfaction and like things like that. So when you can bring all of that together in a real story, that's when I think you start to win, right? And whether like you're
mhm.
going for a super technical role, you're going for something that's a little less technical, I think those things would always be more important. I remember reading the Netflix culture memo. I've talked about it a million times, right? They say like we don't really care about how much work you do, right? We care about the
Mhm.
results that you drive, because ultimately, like the results are what if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense, right? So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's like how can you demonstrate value? Because ultimately, too, like whether it's like you getting an interview and speaking to what you've done, it's gonna be the result, right? Even resumes these days, like I think 20 years ago, you could write fixed certain window or did XYZ. No, now it's a whole story. It's like, what was the problem you were trying to solve? What did you do and how did he? And that's why they always say put metrics, because we don't care that you did it. We care like what
Yeah.
what came out of it, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Oh wow. So yeah, I mean, and that's the way that I feel that the experience I had when my father had a little computer shop helped a lot. Constant customer interactions, constant understanding what it's like to deal with customers and look for that end goal, and help me speak to it when I started interviewing from going from an IT support role to the sales development role before I became a solutions architect. It's a whole trip I went on before I got to this role. I'm telling you, it was a whole trip.
So tell me about your sales development role. Now you got me curious. Like, what was that? When did you do it? What was the whole outcome of it? And why did you even choose to go that route?
Oh my gosh, let me tell you, that my journey in Amazon, I've been climbing trees and swinging from branches, like literally. So I'll first about say by telling you my path. So I'm working the floor in FTW6 as a water spider, which is basically a person that pulls all the I guess like cardboard boxes, then fills the stations so people to help fill out the robots, right? Did that for about 6 months. After that, the pandemic came. I saw the opportunity to help and help with social distancing. But while doing that, I was studying my networks CCNA. I was looking to try to get into the IT support space, so I studied my CCNA. Got through there, interviewed for a L4 engineer position, got turned down, interviewed for an L3 position, made it there. So I started working nights. While I was there, my girlfriend at the time, she was telling me I should go to AWS, forget this infrastructure stuff. You should go to AWS, that's where the future is. And I was like, no, my CCNA, I spent all this time. I'm like, I've been doing all this stuff. Like, I can't. And then I was sitting there, we both were slowly moving up. Like, we both started at the fulfillment center. Then we went and she went to, I said, data basically did a analyst, and I
Analyst.
became, yeah, then I became an IT support person, and so I was making just a little bit more money than her at that time, and then out of nowhere she starts making like six figures, and then everything that I was saying doesn't make sense anymore. So I was like, let me check out this AWS stuff now.
You got my attention.
Right. So I did take the I was working nights, so and AWS has lots and lots of like learning materials. So I took the foundational certification, told my coworkers about it. Nobody else budged, only I didn't. They didn't want to do it. They were like, we're doing other stuff. And then I took my second certification. But right before then, my coworker tells me about another word, his friend who was onboarding as a DG, which is a demand generation at AWS, and
Mm,
she needed help learning about the CC and the cloud practitioner, right?
mm,
So I spent like an hour a day helping
mm,
her learn how to do that, right?
mm,
She got her certification. She was able to go through her onboarding, right?
mm,
And then at the same time, I asked her, hey, I see that like I would love to go into the AWS side. What do I have to do to be there? So she introduced
mm,
me to her manager,
mm,
right? And her manager sees like, hey, this guy who's just doing this helped my person learn how to do the things she needs for this job.
wow.
Right. And so I asked, hey, what can I do this? She said, yeah, there's some openings right now. Luckily it was in the pandemic. So there was a little bit of like, openings happening here and there. I immediately hopped on it and I went straight, did several interviews. But before my last interview, I asked that friend who was doing the onboarding what the requirements for onboarding were. And she said that you have to get associate solutions architect certification as well while you're onboarding. So before my interview, I got the certification.
Wow.
And so I come in there, like that means that all I have to do is so they knew that the technology aspect of the job I have in the bag. Now they just need to learn how to train me in executive acumen and things like that. And we have this whole period of time where they can build me up so they felt confident. So I started to roll, man. I started to roll. It was my first big boy job.
And that is such an amazing story because, like, of course, you could have still gotten here, right, with all the amazing
Mm,
work you put in, your determination, and all of that. But
mhm,
how much more did being in the ecosystem already help, right? And it's even crazier when you say it because like you weren't even the only person there. Like you had somebody motivating you and being in the system and growing together. And like you're essentially a masterclass in everything that I preach. It's like get in the game, get working, put in the work. Like you'll be surprised about how much you can do when you lock in that way. The challenge that I
mhm,
see is that I don't see enough people really doing that.
mhm.
And I think that's where the challenge lies. It's that are you really willing to put in the work to get to that next level?
Very true. And the work is constant. Like I just learned about how to better work with security, and now everybody wants us to understand AI at a deep level. I didn't I didn't know AI a year ago. But a year now, you can talk to me about I'll go deep. We'll make some AI models together. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it is just, hey, like, do you like learning? Do you like watching YouTube videos all the time? Do you want to constantly are you like the kind of person like for instance, and the one thing I would have to say when it comes to that learning thing, you have to apply it to your life, right?
Mm,
When I started going into and started learning from the DG level, I started
mm,
seeing, okay, this is how businesses run at this level,
mm,
right? And then I started going to solutions architecture level. Oh, this is the technologies that really enable businesses to do well. I used to own a business. How
mm,
do I apply these kind of methodologies to my own business? How do
mm,
I, with this new knowledge, this new blah 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 blah, right? How do I now become this monster in this space? And if you
mm.
have that kind of like, if you apply it,
Mentality.
yeah, Yeah, like these are just people. Everybody in this space is just a person. You see
Yep.
these giant muggles or like giant like leviathans in the space, and if you talk to them, they're just regular people who just have intense curiosity and a focus, right? And they live it. They
Hmm.
live it. It's part of them. It's part of who they are. Like
Hmm.
so, when I leave work, I'm working still in tech. As you leave work right now, look at what you're doing.
We're
Like,
still having these conversations
yeah,
and
like
learning.
you're absorbed. It's part of you. It is an extension of you. Like you know what I mean. And so anyway, I feel like I just talked a lot.
No, no, no. And the craziest part about what you just said is like, of course, everybody that I know is like 10x learning and stuff like that. But there's a
Mhm.
guy, shout out Data Bunny, man. He's almost maniacal in the way that he learns, bro. Like that guy scares me. And it's like it did so much work learning on his own. Like he went from like, IT support to like he like literally if you go to his LinkedIn right now, he has over
Mhm.
like 15 certifications. And I'm not even joking, bro.
Wow.
Renewing and like, and that's the thing. It's like one of the biggest reasons why evangelize tech and preach it is like if we live in a community and we're a part of a community that's, for whatever reasons or historical reasons or things that have happened, we don't have all the resources, we don't have all the help that we need. It even becomes 10 times more important for us to have opportunities where oftentimes maybe we don't need a ladder, where we don't need hand holding, where we don't need somebody to give us extra. And I'm not saying you could make it on your own. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying at least, if you think about even like medicine, law, all of these other places, it's either like you got to go to school for a long time. And even there, like the schools you go to, like if you go to Yale Law, it's different from if you just went to some school law, right? Tech is
Mhm.
that one place where it's like the hiring manager doesn't care where you learn SQL. It's like if I give you that coding challenge, can you solve it? Can you
Yeah,
talk me
we gotta
through it?
fix this right now because the customers are asking us to fix this. Can you do it? And the difference between the people who can do it and the people who can't do it is the people who would lose sleep learning because they've never seen this problem in their life before. And they are going to now go through the literature. They're looking at documentation. They're looking at Stack Overflow. They're going and they're thinking because you will get good and there'll be problems that used to be very challenging before it becomes like second nature. But there will always be a new challenge. And that is the thing that I love about this space. Just like you said it, like my degree is in media and communication. Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? I have a media and communication degree. I'm supposed to be doing like podcasts right now and like, but I'm over here telling companies how to position their entire enterprise tech stack. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? This
That's
is
wild.
millions and millions of dollars a year that they spend on this, and they're telling me how do we do this?
Mm.
Like, and there's few spaces where you can make that leap based on effort.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Bro,
saying?
bro, if you were getting like a medical degree since the time you started your journey, maybe you'll be getting towards the end, right?
All
Now,
right.
maybe you'll be getting ready to go into residency,
Chemicals. But yeah, man, like I mean, but I'm not to knock all those trades, but I'm
No, of
saying
course
like
not. Of course not.
those are very respect because like all of them we serve. We serve like they're the people that like are delivering like the product directly to the customer at times.
Mm,
Like we
mm,
enhance those
mm,
regions.
mm.
But because of the way that tech is, medicine, if you want to learn it, you have to have bodies. Like, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like, you literally have to have bodies. But if you want to go and learn tech, all you need, where's my laptop? Let me bring this
Is
thing out here.
YouTube.
YouTube. And you take a laptop. You go some. You don't even need to have your own internet, dude. You can go somewhere where they have free Wi-Fi and sit there and watch YouTube for. And if you know what I'm saying, you can pull yourself from the bootstraps with it.
Hmm.
You know what I
Mm,
mean? And it's a
mm,
few, there's trades out there that's like that. There's carpentry, there's things that's not like that. But when it comes to being able to still use that trade and then enter back into corporate leadership, right?
mm, mm,
Tech,
mm,
tech, man. Get on
mm,
the computer.
mm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
And we're getting some love in the comments. So I think Ogoratios says, great conversation. Yeah, thanks for the shout
thank
out.
you.
And Maxwell had a question. He says, do either of you have experience with the AWS Skill Center classes?
Are you talking about a skill builder or like what are they speaking of? I do use Skill Builder, but I don't know what I've not used Skill Center yet. We have a lot of different like technologies here at AWS,
Yeah,
and it depends on which avenue that you use based on where
yeah.
you are. So we will look through that and I'll say that we yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say it's like ultimately, see, the tools that I guess those are important, right? Like, but it's not as important as the work, right? Like, are you doing the
Hmm.
work? Are you learning the thing? Like, you could
Hmm.
get a Udemy course, right? As long as
Hmm.
does it give you what you want? Like, there's literally like what's it called? Like uh Dr. Messer on YouTube who breaks
Yes.
down breaks
Yeah.
down entire spaces, entire certifications for free. Like the tools are out
Hmm.
there, right? It's like, am
Hmm.
I willing to consume the knowledge? And this is even something that people don't pay attention to. It's like, even if you don't have the money to get the certification, get the knowledge.
Get the knowledge. This the knowledge. It is all
Get
about the
the
knowledge, man. Like I swear to you, I Maxwell.
oh yeah, so Maxwell is saying they have in-person classes in a few locations. I think it's related to skill builder.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I have to go ahead and like see that. If that person wants more information, have them drop their info in the chat, and we'll see
Yeah.
what we can do about getting more info. Because I'll be curious to learn as well. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I do see it. It's actually on the Amazon website. Yeah, and of course you can reach out to I'm not sure if you want them to have your LinkedIn, but maybe that's another way
They
that
can have it. They can have it.
they can reach out.
Yeah, they
Make
can
sure.
reach
So
out.
so you can reach out on, oh, I do see it. It's actually part of Amazon. So I definitely think it should make sense, right? But again, I
Yeah.
think I think that's another thing too. It's like, of course, great that you found it, but you could also like maybe potentially do some research on, places like Reddit, uh, Twitter, like people, there will be people who probably have the experience who might be able to provide more authoritative view. But I haven't heard of it. So definitely thank you for sharing that resource.
Mhm.
So Nian is asking for a question. Oh yes, yes, thank you for this. How important is software development to perform in solutions architecture? And I've kind of like heard two different schools of thought, right? Like for some people, solution architect, you have to be, at least you have to know how to code, you have to be able to build your POCs and things like that.
Mhm.
But I also know like some, not a lot, but some non-technical solution architects, if that's even a thing. But I do want to get your thoughts on it. So, is it important to know software development to be able to perform in solution architecture?
Um, I would say how it was and how it is becoming.
Hmm,
Um, it was extremely important that you have at least deep understanding of the one language, right? Primarily because you will not be able to communicate with technical stakeholders about what they're doing in the environment without understanding how applications work in general and how coding works in general, right? So you should be able to be able to relate what they're saying to at least one of the languages that you're dealing with. More and more, though, um, this is two different things. Application development can become two things. It can be creating the logic and the structure behind the application, how the logic will flow, and then there's the actual coding elements that is the actual application, right? So if it is you need to understand what the basic building blocks of application design is, right?
Mm,
You also have to understand what are the limitations of the technologies that are in place for that particular application,
mm,
and which technology choices you should use based on the use case that you want the application to serve,
mm,
right?
mm,
And then you should also have a good understanding of the frameworks that would work best for said application. Do you
mm,
use like a Node.js, a React? Do you use like a Python? Or which of these things works best for this use case, right?
mm,
You should know why,
mm.
right? But you may not need to, just like a regular architect who is did all of my Austin new builds we have here. He doesn't have a nail in his hand knocking down an each and every nail, right? He's not, he probably doesn't even know how to use it probably, not gonna lie to you. He may do his home projects, but he's not over here putting up houses, you know what I'm saying?
At least
So
that's not where its value lies, right?
that's not where his value lies. And in order for you to be really, really good at doing that specific skill within building that house, you're not looking at the whole picture, right?
Mm,
And so as an architect, you're supposed to be really, really, really good at looking at the whole picture, no matter what the picture is. And
mm.
then you should know what tools you need to make the picture come together, and then you should know like what is the wrong tools, and then you should know how to check and make sure that you comply, and then you're a good architect.
And if we could bring it back, because this was something that I found very fascinating going through my base level like Google
Mhm,
cloud certification, where was, and this was so fascinating to me, so I'm going to share it with everyone too, is that
mhm,
I remember when we launched our first e-commerce site, we built it with like a thing called Open Cart, right?
mhm,
And it was one-stop solution. Everything was there, right? Like you had your banner plugins, everything was kind of like done that way.
mhm.
But going through it and understanding like microservices and containerization and those things where what some of the things that cloud technologies have allowed us do is to build new technology, to build new capabilities in things that are not tightly coupled manner, right? So it's not like we're building the entire website. And that's why sometimes you notice that you may be on Twitter, but trending may not work, right? Or something else may not work. And the entire site is working, or DMs. That's because that service may be down, right? But the entire
Mhm,
platform is not down, right? And that's another
mhm.
thing, is that you have resiliency that way, right? Because before, if one thing went down, then it meant everything went down.
Everything was done.
And
Yeah,
that's one of the things. Go ahead, Tori.
no, no, I'm gonna keep listening. Keep telling
Yeah,
me.
so I
Go.
was gonna say that that's one of the things that then makes even the architecture role important, because of course, while it's giving more flexibility around the fact that you can choose many different things to build, you have
Mhm.
to be thoughtful about that choice, right? Because you don't
Yes.
want to like, I could use a data example, right? Or maybe not even a data example. Let me use like a basic example. Coke is cool, Mentos is cool, but if you put those together, you just made like, a
I hope
nuclear
a
bomb.
mess.
You just made a nuclear bomb, right? So it's like, of course, maybe not so dire, but the things that don't mix together easily like that, and you have to know those things, right, for you to be able to say what's the right recipe to build this thing that we're trying to do.
Exactly. You spend more time studying application constructs and architectural patterns than you do spend time figuring out how to make a particular logic work within a system,
Mm,
right? So that's that answering your Nee's question. Um, that's definitely the biggest I would say, and the tooling changes constantly, and that's why another thing about being a solutions architect, about learning, and about every single cycle, every quarter, you have different companies who are working hard to create a new way for doing work.
mm,
Right, and you have open source people, you have working together looking for better ways of doing things. Who's and if the everybody's heads down, understanding and doing their work. Who's out there keeping up with the literature? Who's
Uh,
discovering the eureka? This thing we're doing right here, we just found they just found something that makes
that,
this so much better. So that's kind of like why that's the reason why that's how you have to think about software and about programming.
yeah, and no shade to Drake, but it goes back to that line where they say like, he runs to Atlanta when he needs to have his checks cleared or something like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
again, as an architect, you kind of like have to be in that motion, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what's hip, what's new now, like what's the street saying? Because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember one really cliche. I used to be like really super big on like quotable quotes when I was younger, and like there was one that really resonated where it's like, you know, um, we don't need learned professors. We need learning professors, because a person who
Mm.
does not read is no different than a person who can't, right? So it's the same
Yes.
thing. It's like if you have a mindset of I'm gonna learn this thing one time and it's a wrap. Nah, it's not. And that's the thing. It's like even in rap, right? You see it change. Like, and that's why, like, you people are gonna cringe when Will Smith is rapping now because it's like, no, bro, like the game is gone. Like, stay in that era. Don't come over here.
I did see him start rapping. I did see him start rapping. I wish him the best though. But I love that guy. I grew up loving that guy.
Well, it's like, bro, it's too late now. It's too late now.
It's going too hard. Just let the young
let
ones
this
deal
young
with.
let this YNs do their thing.
Yeah. Come hang out with us, have a beer, sit down, take a load off. Oh man. But anyway, like, yeah, like, that constantly being hip is the way that a lot of people have asked me because one of the things that I do help a lot of people get into the tech space. Not in the same ways as you do. I focus more on trying to develop them to be able to work for me.
Mm.
So, but in that bit of selfishness, I always look for a certain type of person, right?
Mm, mm,
And that certain type of person is the kind of person that is scrappy,
mm,
is willing to learn new things, and
mm,
I don't care that they don't know it now.
mm,
Like, are they the kind of person that are, as soon as they know something, they're like, yes, I know this and I am the best at knowing this, and no one that, yes, or are they the kind of person like, oh, really? Okay, I knew this before, but what you're saying is new information. I can change quickly with that
mm,
new information. Like,
mm,
you know what I mean?
mm,
Like, even the tech space, like they said, hey, let's all start learning AI. And if people who were like, not like trying to move, we'd see it coming. Like,
mm.
we see the future coming. So you gotta learn
And,
it.
and you know what's mind blowing about even that piece that you just mentioned is also like, to your point, like everything is always changing. I think there's even a third person, which is more dangerous than the first two, is the person who says, I don't know and I don't care, right? Like,
Oh.
one of the things that it used to be so frustrating for me when I was starting my career, like that, like, bro, the first job that I got when I applied looking for a job is less than 5 years ago. I used to hate
Wow.
the job application process. So I've spent
Hmm.
most of my career either building my own companies or getting referred into companies, right? I've
Mm.
never, because I just hated what it felt like to beg for opportunities. But being on the
Yeah.
other side now, I understand exactly what it is. And I do understand that there's so many people who don't have opportunity, don't have a chance taken on them, and they're even putting in work. But here's something that I found curious, right? You can be so good that it can't deny you. And that's also a thing. But the way to become that person is to learn. And I'll give a very practical example. So there's a guy who I found him through a way. And how did I find him? Like a big YouTuber, was asking, my workload is crazy now. My team can't handle it anymore. I'm looking for a new creative directive person to come help me drive this whole machine. And there was a
Mhm.
bunch of people who were putting in requests, but most of them weren't impressive. I didn't like the way they were doing visual storytelling. When I found this guy, I'm like, I don't even need this guy to come work for me. Come be my coach was what I was thinking. Because I'm like, this guy got it down to a T. And
Yeah.
how does somebody get there? This is somebody who spent a lot of time figuring out. Because eventually, when I started to share within my YouTube community, like, oh yeah, oh, it's copying this other like creator. But I'm like, I don't care because he's copied it down to a T. The execution looks good. So I say all of that to zoom out and say this. Even if you don't have the opportunity today, right? And even if you don't have all the skills and all the tools to build enterprise level software that can do all of this amazing stuff, have you learned enough, even from what exists today, and added your own little sprinkle to it, that you've done something that somebody can see tomorrow and say, wait, why is that person not working on my team? And
Right.
that is the thing that will give you opportunity 90% of the time. I had a guest on the podcast who was saying, in fact, what am I saying? You said it, right? Think about your own story too. You were helping somebody who was already on the job do their job. Think about it, like if you're a hiring manager today and you see somebody come say, this person doesn't even do my job, but they've helped me do my job. What are you going to say? No, that's not who we're looking for. Because think,
Right.
and this is what it says that I think most people can't really comprehend. It doesn't mean that you're the expert or you're even better than that person. But have you spent enough time even trying to figure this stuff out that you have an insight that the people who are working in the role don't have? Because you don't have to show them that you know 100 things. If you learn 5 things really well, you can make a point to them to where they say, we know you don't know enough, but we've seen enough of you to know that if we give you a chance, you're going to succeed. And that's
Hmm.
all you need. You don't need to know everything,
Don't
but
need to
do
know
you know
everything.
enough to convince someone to say, if we take a chance on this guy, we're not going to regret it?
And this really helps if you like, if you just start like absorbing everything, like, like listen to podcasts like yours, like just having the constant pull so you can get these ideas, so you can know, okay, what is this space needing that I
Mm,
can do to show that I am relevant,
mm,
right?
mm,
Like, and it's every single day I listen to your stuff. I listen to like a bunch of different people on TikTok. I have my stuff I'm listening to on my just from work in general. So
mhm,
it just fills your head
mm,
everywhere. I talk to my business, my
mhm,
partners, all these different people that I
mm.
talk to is just constantly business tech, business tech, business tech, business tech. Like,
And you know, to that point about curiosity and consuming knowledge, I think some of the things that's also very, very crazy that most people overlook is that whether we like it or not, we're all consuming information. But
hmm
sometimes we're consuming information, whether it's like, oh, 50-50 dates, or, everybody knows the minute to minute analysis of like when Drake and Kendrick were going at it, right? The thing
hmm
is, in that battle, there were no losers. Okay, maybe Drake lost a little bit, but still, like, he still has number one record. He still made millions last year. Like, nothing
Yeah.
changed, right? Maybe he lost a bit of street cred, but he's gonna be fine. The
It's
point
very fun.
is, what are you consuming that's helping you out? Because I could bet you, like, maybe being able to conversate in, like, what rap battles and what lines will win you some social points. But if you really want to win, like, understanding what it is, and it's so crazy because even in this conversation, like, shout out Maxwell, we learned about AWS skill centers. Like, and
Hmm
that's the thing. It's like you will be shocked how much you can learn, even from people who not even directly trying to teach you, but you can still learn anyway. Hey, Nikhil, welcome to the stream. And Maxwell, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was really cool. And say super happy for you, Kadisi. Yeah, we all are, man. And see, he's been a blessing to everybody. And we have
Oh
a
man.
we have a comment here from I hope I'm saying it right, of Sergey or Serge. Please
Oh,
forgive me.
Surge.
But it says, besides demo process on presenting design to stakeholders on whiteboard or any drawing tools, how often is a essay exposed to build or troubleshoot cloud issues by modifying the infrastructure or system? It's a deep one.
It's a deep one, but it's a very two-part question. So depending on what level you are of a solutions architect, right? If you're kind of like doing, I would say it in the sense of like how other companies may do it, and then how we at AWS do it, right? A solutions architect for some companies means that you are designing and implementing. These are
mm,
smaller startups. These are companies who are just kind of like, they're consulting firms.
mm,
You're doing the two roles, right?
mm,
If you're looking at the enterprise reseller or a seller, you're doing more of the design work.
mm,
And then when it comes to implementation, there's an implementation team coming behind you or a
mm,
partner to
mm,
run that process, right?
mm,
Um, but this is something for me personally, I have to tell you.
mm,
As a solutions architect in AWS, we are not hands-on keyboard.
mm,
What that means is we don't do work inside the customer's environment,
mm,
right?
mm,
But we do guide, right? We do give advice and we can sit there with you as you're working on something in your environment. If it's a bespoke problem that you want to be able to understand in the case of a POC, we
mm,
can guide you in how to implement that
mm,
step by step. So there comes a real interesting interplay between being able to keep that differentiation of not putting your hands on keyboard and
mm,
being able to be very guideful in your customer. And in order for you
mm,
to be very good at doing that, you have to understand the back end troubleshooting issues that could happen within the environment to be able to
mm,
help, right?
mm,
Whatever maybe AD integration issues or networking issues from end to end, or maybe just maybe like load balancing issues, maybe like the CDN is not working or whatever, or
mm,
maybe they're not getting logs or whatever.
mm, mm,
You should, and in the process of learning about how to build it, you
mhm.
understand the rules that guide against what can happen if you don't do it right, right?
That's
And
true.
I believe that the essay becomes way stronger when they can do the troubleshooting step. You're a
Mm,
way better essay. That means you understand the environment.
mm, mm. That is so key. Um,
Hmm.
I know we got one more question, but before we get there, I do want to quickly touch on prop computers. Uh,
Hmm.
that is a company that you're building, and of course mission driven. Can you talk a little bit about that work and what inspired you to do it in the first place?
Well, it came from the the blessing I saw coming into this space. I saw what it did to my life, and also came from my 5 years I spent in Nigeria before I came back in 2019. In that time, I saw people who were very, very, very smart and capable, lacking the opportunities to be able to explore those capabilities, right? And I saw an opportunity when I came back here of a need for those exact expertise. And I saw that the markets, and our brothers in India and our brothers in the Philippines and South America, how they've been able to help build out their country through creating those pipelines from the West down to their spaces so that people here, like I aim to help small to medium businesses who cannot afford people like us here, right? They can't afford us. And if they go to use Fiverr, they're just getting like, one of these transactional um, um, um,
Relationships.
relationships, right? They're not getting what the enterprises are getting, which is an entire team, UX, solutions architect, what do you call it? Full stack developer, mobile developer, like all these things that will
Product manager who's
product
thinking end to
manager.
end, right? About how we're
Exactly.
building the technology.
Exactly. They don't have that. So these moms and pop shops, small businesses are going to face leviathans, monsters who have all these different weapons aiming at their head. They don't even know that they're being aimed at. Like, and they're like, I'm gonna start a business. Right? And so I see that problem and I see the two
Mm,
sides that could benefit. And so I
mm,
decided that what I would do,
mm,
build this area, which is in Nigeria, excuse me, build Nigeria up and create the infrastructures necessary to be able to support the needs
mm.
of the clients here in the US. I had the hiccups. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So for the last 2 years, I've been training people inside an AWS space. I've been finding people who are very promising. One of my business partners right now is in England, finishing this applied AI degree, and another one of my business, two of them, another one of them as well is in England as well. And we're basically just trying to build this because I see the future of AI-driven applications. I see that more and more companies will need the ability to create these applications, and I
Mm,
see the barriers of price,
mm,
right? So we're planning on using this tool, using this need on both sides to create this new tech-driven Nigeria. That's what I
mm,
want to do with this
mm,
company.
mm.
Mhm.
That is so cool, and I love the mission and the passion behind it. I can see that you're very passionate about it. So that's so
Mhm.
cool, and helping other people out, both on the business side and even the talent who would never have access to those opportunities without opportunities like the ones you're creating. So I know we're over time, and I want to be respectful, but we got to take this last question from Nikhil. Didn't really give me much to work there with, Nikhil, but it says, "Hey, I'm a graduate student. What would you recommend for me to do to get a job?"
A graduate student, you just finished already. If you had just recently graduated and it was a little bit early in the summer, and this is a more of a general thing, I would look to get an internship as a way of getting into the door. If that's not the case, then depending on where you are in
Mm,
the world. If you're in Europe, I would look for an associate solutions architect, depending on your skill set. Too, I don't know what degree you have, um, but I would first say, if you're going to go into cloud, get a solutions architect, get a solutions architect associate and a cloud practitioner certification. The cloud practitioner certification first. When you study the cloud practitioner certification, do not study it as I want to pass an exam. Take the time to, as soon as you see new ideas and new things, to explore them like a mind map. Imagine, oh, I just learned something. Build these empty spaces that you don't understand up until you finish
mm,
understanding the CPC. From that point on, you go into ASA, you have like a baseline understanding of the cloud, and you have your degree. You can start looking for work.
mm,
I would then immediately, while I'm looking for work, start to implement some of the things I've known by creating applications for myself. Like be
mm,
able to spend like $100 a month on infrastructure and build something for yourself that you will use daily, that you have to understand how to use daily.
mm,
Nowadays, that can be in the AI space, you can use Bedrock
mm,
and AWS, and that will teach you what AI is like, what building agentic AI is like. You're going to be able to use it to create your own little specialized AI agents that's
mm.
going to allow you to basically have big pools of data. You're not spending open AI money. You know what I mean? You can customize it. You see, oh, this AI people, they make pictures with pictures. You can just sit in there and make your own app that's inside your environment that you do, and you don't have to go and put your PII data to some random company. Like,
Yeah,
you know what
yep,
I mean? Like, go and like learn and build something while getting those certifications and then start applying immediately.
yeah,
And never underestimate the importance of starting from a place that is not exactly tech, but tech adjacent if it's available. Because I went into
mm,
sales. I went into sales first before I could in AWS before I went into solutions architecture, even though that's where I wanted to go. And I learned a lot in that space, but it allowed me to get into that space faster. You
wow.
know?
That
Yeah.
is that is that is so, it's interesting that you put it that way because I think that's another, like, that's a good breakdown into like how to approach that space. So I really hope that that's helpful for you, Nikhil. Again, that's as much as we have time for tonight, because again, we usually end this 1 hour, but it's been such a great conversation. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to call out for people to watch out for, any shout outs that you got. We can do this in the next maybe 1 minute, and then we'll call it. We'll call it a night.
Okay, awesome. Well, if you guys are interested, if you guys have ideas, or if you guys are working with companies that are looking for help, with implementing their solutions. You can reach out to promptcomputers.io. That's promptcomputers.io. If you are an enterprise and you see me on LinkedIn and you work with AWS or you're an AWS customer, just message me and we will talk about and we'll talk about your relationship with AWS. But if you are nowhere near that kind of money and you're just a small guy or a group of small people with a big dream and you need some help, also reach out to Prompt Computers. We got your back.
Yep. 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 So
Yeah.
check out Prop Computers, and you guys can also find Kadisi on LinkedIn if you want to connect or you have any questions.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so thanks everyone for joining. This has been Working in Tech. We do this every Thursday. The replay is always on YouTube or wherever else you're getting. Hey, Micah
Mhm.
Jensen Jenkins, thank you for joining. Really appreciate having you. And shout out to everyone else as well. We're always having a guest on the podcast every week talking about different tech roles, breaking down exactly how they did it, and hopefully helping you figure out what's your next step. This has been another amazing episode. We'll see you guys next time.